webinar today. Again, I don't know how many of you know SBDC, but we are an SBA partner, and we provide business advising and educational programs like the Export Accelerator to our clients throughout the state, and primarily at no cost to all of you. We'd love to be able to share more information about us. And I know I have a couple of my colleagues on the call. Katie Sweet, one of them, our Director of Education and Communication, and she will be helping to manage the chat and any questions that come in. And she can also pop in a couple links to some different things as we're talking about them, like the SBDC website, if you wouldn't mind, Katie, throwing that in there in case folks want to follow up with us directly, and then some additional information on other topics that we'll be talking about, like the Export Accelerator programming. But with that, again, I'm delighted to have you with us today on this webinar that is sponsored by the New Hampshire Export Accelerator. The Export Accelerator program is a collaborative partnership between the New Hampshire SBDC, the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs and their Office of International Commerce, the U.S. Commercial Service, and the New Hampshire District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration. Together, we are working to build a stronger and more coordinated export ecosystem for New Hampshire small businesses. The partner supports our clients and our businesses really every step of the way through their export journey, from business planning and readiness support at SBDC, and then moving on to developing market opportunities and putting together events and trade missions through the Office of International Commerce, and then additional support through our U.S. Commercial Service partners with in-country Gold Key Service support, as well as financing opportunities through USSBA. It is a really fantastic partnership that we have, and we're really pleased to be able to work together to support all of you. As I mentioned, this program is made possible through funding from the STEP program, the State Trade Expansion Program. It's a federal program administered by the state of New Hampshire that helps small businesses enter or expand in global markets. STEP support is one of the key pillars that allows us to offer programming like this and future programming. So we're really appreciative of that. Before we get into today's webinar, though, I do want to highlight an upcoming exciting opportunity for the businesses that are participating today and any of your friends and colleagues that may also be interested. So we're looking for companies that are relatively new to exporting to Canada specifically, those with little or no sales to Canada in the past 18 months. Because our 2026 Master in Canada series cohort will be starting in January, and we're encouraging all of you to consider participating. It's designed to give New Hampshire small businesses the tools, insights, and hands-on support necessary to gain traction in the Canadian market. So today we're going to learn a lot from our guests and about those Canadian market opportunities. And then the Export Accelerator programming that, again, will be launching in January will dig really deep into your own individual needs and help coach you through creating your outreach plan, looking at market opportunities specific to your business, your industry, and then providing the additional support through the OIC team and the SBDC and the Commercial Service and SBA teams to really help you get on your way in 2026. I should also mention that today's session will be recorded, and we ask that you hold your questions until the end so that our presenter can move through the material smoothly. With that, it's my pleasure to hand things over to Alan Dillingham from the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs. He's going to be introducing today's speaker, share more information about the Master in Canada cohort and our upcoming trade mission to Canada, as well as the STEP grant program and opportunities available to companies in that cohort. So thanks very much again for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and look forward to being able to support you in your future efforts. And Alan, thanks very much, and I'll turn things over to you.
Okay, thank you, Liz, for that warm introduction. Just wanted to briefly go over the agenda for today's program. You heard from Liz. I'll make a few opening remarks. I will be introducing our speaker today, Lucien Lisereau from CDEP. He will be giving a presentation of about roughly half an hour. Again, we ask that you hold your questions to the end, and then we'll have a question and answer period. And then after that, by way of closing, I will talk in more detail about the New Hampshire Export Accelerators Mastering Canada series cohort that we will be starting in January. And we're looking for people to register by December 1st. But again, more details at the end. And also for those who may not be eligible for this particular cohort, you may be eligible to use some of the services provided by Lucien and CDEP through a STEP grant, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But for now, I'm going to move straight into Lucien's bio. He is a senior economic development consultant with CDEP, which is a Montreal-based consulting firm that specializes in international market research, trade development, and export assistance for U.S. economic development agencies, and also for companies in the United States. He has a master's in public international affairs from the University of Montreal and a BA in political science from Concordia College. He has over 5 years supporting U.S. exporters entering the Canadian market, and he's collaborated with major U.S. economic development agencies like Business Oregon, VEDP, which is Virginia's economic development program, Missouri, Maryland, and Washington as well. He's led multiple trade missions to Canada. He's a dual French-Czech national based in Montreal, and he's fluent in French, English, and Czech. And with that, I'm going to turn it over directly to Lucien, who can talk to you about the market opportunities in Canada.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you, Liz. Thank you to the New Hampshire team. Let me share my screen and start the presentation. This always takes a few seconds. All right, this should be working for everyone. Let me know if you have a problem seeing it. So again, thank you very much. I had the pleasure of driving in New Hampshire a month ago through the White Mountains. Such a beautiful state. I've never seen so much wildlife on a single road, and I live in Canada, so looking forward to coming back, that's for sure. We're already having snow here. I heard you don't, so I'm a bit jealous, but you know, I'll be back for sure. So Alan already introduced us. Thank you, Alan. What I wanted to add is that we work with around 200 companies per year. So US companies helping them enter the Canadian market. And that's basically any industry you can imagine. We work from, a one-person operation jam manufacturer to 300 people auto parts maker. So really a very, very broad range of industries. So what I want to do today is give you a snapshot of Canada as a country, as an export destination for US companies, kind of give you opportunities, show you the market dynamics, what the market looks like in several key industries that I wanted to highlight today, talk about some of the difficulties as well, and then how US companies can navigate those through notably programs such as the one that Liz and Alan are offering, which is very good. So some quick facts about Canada as a country. We are a very large country in terms of landmass, but actually quite a small market. So around 40 million people, which is the size of California. So California is spread within basically the length of the US. So quite a lot of space, a lot of empty space, especially up north. Most of us live within 100 miles of the US border. Myself here in Montreal, we are approximately 15, 20 minutes from Vermont and from New York. New Hampshire is not very far either. So that kind of shows you the difference in terms of geographical dispersion. A lot of US companies are surprised when they get into Canada and when they have a sales team that needs to travel so much to only reach a few million people. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Ontario, by far the most populous province, followed by Quebec and British Columbia. Ontario and Quebec house pretty much 60% of the population and the economy as well. So the financial centers, the manufacturing centers, the population centers, Montreal, Toronto, they're all in Quebec and Ontario. So that's really where the heart of the economy is. As you probably know, most of us speak English, some of us speak French. As you can hear from my accent, English is not my first language. Quebec specifically speaks French as an official language, and some of the provinces have bilingual legislation as well. Canada is the only G7 country which has trade agreements with all of the other G7 countries, which is a good thing to keep in mind when you want to establish operations in Canada. You have access to all of those markets as well. Moving on to kind of a province by province breakdown, just to give you an idea. So from left to right, British Columbia, you can see mostly focused on mining and forestry, a lot of tourism as well. I don't know if you've been to British Columbia. It's beautiful. I highly recommend. Alberta, perhaps famously, lots of oil and gas production. So natural resources, energy. The prairies, so Manitoba and Saskatchewan, we call them the breadbasket of Canada. So a lot of farming and a lot of mining as well. Ontario, as mentioned, the largest province, also the financial center, Toronto being the largest city. So a lot of telecom, banking, and a lot of auto manufacturing as well. Quebec, second largest city, Montreal, a very strong aerospace cluster, as we will be covering later. A lot of hydropower, and also metals like aluminum. And then the Eastern Atlantic provinces, mostly focused on tourism, offshore, and also some resource extraction as well. So on New Hampshire specifically, the link between New Hampshire and Canada, Canada has consistently been a top market for New Hampshire. It was the second export market in 2024 at around 1.2 billion worth of goods. The main export was aircraft parts, aerospace parts, and then followed by a lot of equipment, machinery, advanced manufacturing products like plastics, engines, optical instruments, and so on, as well as some food, surprisingly chocolate, which was interesting to learn. I'm looking forward to tasting some of that New Hampshire chocolate. So getting into the specific Canadian industries that we wanted to highlight, food and beverage to start with. We like to show this graphic to the US companies to kind of highlight how integrated the supply chain is in North America. A lot of ingredients coming from the US, but a lot of ingredients coming from Canada as well, which is not always something people expect. I'm not sure how well chocolate would do in this burger, but obviously happy to add a New Hampshire ingredient at some point as well. But this is just to show you that the supply chain is very much integrated, which means that there's a lot of opportunities for US companies in Canada to plug into that supply chain. So New Hampshire exported more than half of its agri-food products to Canada in 2024, which again, just show how important the relationship is. Also, Canada as a whole is very receptive to US food products. Canadian consumers are familiar with US brands. Retailers frequently stock them in Canada because there's a strong positive consumer perception of the made in the USA aspect, which I will be covering for manufacturing as well. So in the food and beverage, the strong opportunity segments are mainly specialty and premium foods. So this is talking in Canada, health-oriented or clean label products, niche dietary categories like gluten-free, lactose-free, plant-based, value-added and processed foods in general, and then specific ingredients for Canadian food manufacturers, which will then finish them. There's many points of entry for US companies into the Canadian food and beverage ecosystem, from importers, distributors, to specialty grocers, to national supermarket chains. One thing to note, and that will come up again in this presentation and in general, is that Canada is a very concentrated market. As mentioned, it's a small market, but it's also oligopolistic. So we only have 4 large food distributors. We only have 4 large banks. We only have 4 or 5 large telecom companies. So the market is very similar to the US in terms of consumer trends, but it's quite different in terms of market dynamics. Some US companies see Canada as like an easy extension of the US. That's very rarely the case. Canada often takes more time to enter. Once you're in for good, because the market is very mature. So you're there for good, you're plugged into the ecosystem. But it often takes a bit more time for due diligence, to be on site, to meet with the ecosystem, to make sure you understand the regulations, to make sure you meet with suppliers, you meet with potential distributors, and so on. What often happens in a lot of industries is that if you manage to enter the Canadian market for a specific product, you end up taking someone else's place because of how saturated the market is. So that's something to keep in mind for sure. But again, the appetite for US products is very strong and always has been, and in my opinion, always will be. So moving on to energy, very quickly, specifically for the opportunities when it comes to infrastructure. So Canada's energy mix is quite mixed. Most of it is hydro, followed by nuclear and natural gas, as well as some renewables. In terms of the 4 largest provinces, Ontario uses a mix of everything, but has invested a lot of money recently into not only restarting, but also modernizing some of its nuclear plants, which is also the case in the US and around the world currently. Quebec, perhaps famously, uses almost only hydro, 99% of hydro, which it also sells to a lot of New England states, including New Hampshire. In the photo there, you can see the Hydro-Quebec Dam, which is called Robert Bourassa, which is the largest hydro dam in Canada. So very strong hydro expertise in Quebec, and very strong revenue from that as well. Alberta is the oil and gas province, famously. So not only do they produce a lot of it, they also consume most of it. And then British Columbia uses mostly hydro, but also produces a lot of oil and gas, which it sells. So within that ecosystem, there's a lot of opportunities for US suppliers, given the amount of money that's currently going into maintaining and modernizing facilities and infrastructures all across Canada. Notable ones are hydro equipment, smart grid and energy monitoring equipment, including software, and overall engineering, construction, and logistics services. So moving on to digital health, healthcare, life sciences, medical devices in general. So as you might know, we have a publicly funded healthcare system. People say it's free. We pay for it with our taxes. So is that free? Probably not, but differently managed in the US, let's say. And each province manages its own healthcare system. So basically, every province is almost its own country in Canada when it comes to healthcare. So that's also something that needs navigating, let's say. Currently, the healthcare system in Canada is under a lot of pressure to modernize, to digitize, to improve accessibility, which generates a lot of new opportunities for companies and US companies who specialize in those fields. Some of the key opportunities are anything in digital health, EHR systems, telehealth, virtual care, remote monitoring solutions, medical devices, huge growth there for US exporters. Canada imports 75% of its medical devices. So basically, there's a constant demand across all categories in that sector for US products because Canada makes so few of them. Biomanufacturing, pharma R&D, The government has spent over $2 billion in the last few years to strengthen vaccine production and R&D in Canada. And a lot of US companies have plugged into that supply chain as well. And then for this one, but also for other industries, emerging technologies, AI, robotics, wearables, data-driven diagnostics platforms, things like that. All of these are very strong opportunities of growth right now. So a good thing to note is that since January, because of ongoing trade tensions that we are all aware of, some provinces, including BC, Ontario, and Quebec, have made it harder for US companies to win public tenders. So that's, again, just something to note, and which underscores the importance of having that local network and that local expertise with distributors, integrators, consultants, whatever it may be, to understand what's going on, understand where the opportunities are, and how to navigate the ecosystem. Going into advanced manufacturing, which is quite a large term, large encompassing term, but one of the major ones in Canada. So it's one of Canada's most important economic pillars, employing more than 10% of the Canadian workforce right now. The sector represents 42% of private sector R&D spending. So almost half of R&D spending goes into advanced manufacturing. So very strong growth for Canadian and for US companies. Some areas of opportunity include automation, robotics, industrial Internet of Things, IoT, and connectivity solutions, predictive maintenance technologies, advanced materials and components, smart factory technologies and system integrations. We've had a lot of these, the predictive maintenance technologies and smart factory technologies. We've had a lot of US companies recently this year with a lot of success in Canada finding partners in that regard, because Canada lags behind other developed countries in terms of technology adoption for the smart manufacturing sector. There's a digital skills shortage. There's an uneven technology adoption across industries. And there's an overall slower Internet of Things uptake relative to, for example, the US. For example, recently, 20% of Canadian manufacturing executives reported being unfamiliar with IoT capabilities, which again signals an opportunity for US companies with specific kind of niche applications and easily adaptable applications for specific problems in those sectors. So I wanted to cover aerospace, even though it's under advanced manufacturing, just because it's such a major industry for Canada and for New Hampshire as well. So aerospace is Canada's most research-intensive industry. It has an R&D intensity 2.5 times higher than the manufacturing average. As mentioned, the aerospace hub in Canada is Montreal and the province of Quebec in general. Montreal is the third aerospace hub in the world, behind Seattle, Washington State, and Toulouse in France. So very, very strong opportunity there. And obviously, all of that supply chain across New England and into Canada is very, very much integrated. So some of the opportunity areas there are aircraft parts and components, which, as you can see, New Hampshire exports quite a lot of into Canada. It's actually New Hampshire's first exports, so 400 million in 2024. Avionics, electronic systems, robotics, automation, simulation tools, and then everything cybersecurity related, defense related. Some of the challenges the sector is currently having is supply chain bottlenecks, especially since COVID, which is something you find also in the US currently. Shortage of workforce, which is something you find in not only also in the US, but in most industries. And then there's been quite a strong restructuring of major OEMs in the past few years. So trying to make their supply chains less scattered and more efficient, which has led to some loss of contracts, but also which creates opportunities for new suppliers, basically for smaller, more agile, more flexible companies addressing a specific problem. There's quite a strong growth there. The federal government has spent quite a lot of money on aerospace, especially to recover from COVID, more than $1 billion just for the COVID recovery. And then obviously, as you know, not only in Canada, but across the world, there's a huge spike in defense spending in the past few months, especially. Canada is no exception. Between 2020 and 2030, Canada will have more than doubled its defense spending. So all of the US companies plugging into that supply chain will have opportunities there, because even though Canada is trying to find new commercial partners and try to diversify, most of what it buys from in terms of defense comes from the US still, and that's gonna stay like this for a long time. So there's a lot of opportunity for smaller and larger US companies in that sense. Moving on to ICT, information and communications. Also a very strong sector in Canada. Some of you might recognize the Shopify logo there. Some of you might use Shopify for your companies, for your websites. One of the largest ICT companies based in Toronto, as well as a lot of other ones. The ICT market is ever growing. It's forecasted to reach more than $1 billion annually by the end of this year. Some opportunities currently, anything cybersecurity related is very strong, has been for a few years now. Network monitoring, testing, and certification, cloud and data management solutions. Again, IoT, Internet of Things, sensors and connectivity systems for any applications. And then overall digital transformation solutions for companies. The government has also invested a lot of money into this sector. Also because, as mentioned, Canada lags behind other economies in terms of IoT adoption. So again, this is a very receptive market for relevant, adaptive solutions coming from the US and US companies. And then last but not least, probably very relevant to New Hampshire and some of you, outdoor recreation. As you might know, Canadians love their outdoors. Canada has one of the most active populations. 7 out of 10 Canadians engage in outdoor activities, whether it be hiking, camping, or wildlife viewing. Some of the highlights: the market is estimated at around $5.5 billion. It has been growing very strongly, especially since COVID. COVID has reinforced the growth trend of Canadians wanting to spend more on quality time, quote unquote, outside of the city, basically. If I give you an example, compared to 2019, so the year prior, in 2020, Ontario saw an increase of 47% in Campier gear sales. So almost 50% within a year, and that has been steadily growing or staying at the same level ever since. So it feels like it's a trend that's here to stay. One thing that's important to note is that US outdoor brands have a very strong recognition in Canada. So the label of made in the US still resonates very strongly with Canadian buyers, especially in niche applications where the US has a good reputation, such as outdoor, for example, as well as manufacturing. There's an example on the bottom right of some key retailers in Canada. Canadian Tire is a huge one, and then there are more also regional chains. Again, quite concentrated, but once you're in, you're in for good. But it's good to be able to navigate that environment as well. I wanted to go over some trade shows that we recommend to companies when they come to Canada, depending on your sector, obviously. We have quite a few good trade shows. We don't have a ton of them. They're not huge, but they're very good, very high quality. They reflect the Canadian market. So smaller concentrated, mature. You speak to the right people straight away. You have a very good overview of the entire industry straight away. So for aerospace, we have Aeromart and the International Aerospace Forum, both in Montreal, because Montreal is the aerospace hub, happening next year and the year after. For advanced manufacturing, we have MMTS and ADM, both in Montreal next year, but they alternate between Montreal and Toronto. So they will be in Toronto the year after that, and so on. Very good shows to talk to packaging, automation companies, anything in that advanced manufacturing kind of technologies, IoT as well. And I forgot to mention the aerospace shows are very good to talk to directly to all the big OEMs, all the supply chain people and executives. So you really have very good contacts straight away. Energy and mining, obviously. So we have PDAC in Toronto, which is more focused on mineral exploration and mining. And then we have the Global Energy Show in Canada, not in Canada, sorry, in Calgary, Alberta, which used to be called Oil and Gas, but they wanted to change the name, but it's quite similar. So much more focused on energy, oil and gas, but also some renewables more and more. Two very good shows that we attend every year and that we recommend to companies. And then for the food sectors, you have the Cial show, which is the largest food show in Canada. It's a sister brand of the Cial France show, which is a huge food show in Paris. So it's going to be in Montreal next year. It also alternates between Montreal and Toronto. So it's going to be in Toronto after that. And this one is very good for any finished goods in terms of the food industry. So not very good for commodities, for example, but anything from jams to bread to cheese to all of these things. The RC show is good for the hospitality sector. So not only if you're in the food sector, but also in technology related to the hospitality sector or services, or if you're a hospitality service provider yourself, it's a show we recommend. Defense and security, as mentioned, so separate from aerospace, we have CANSEC in Ottawa. A very good show to be close to the government procurement people. So CANSEC is very much focused on defense, land defense, mostly, and then being able to talk to the government representatives. It's quite expensive, but it's worth it if you're in that niche. And then DefSec in Halifax, Nova Scotia is more focused on maritime defense. So all of the big OEMs, US and Canadian, are there. So, submarines, boats, helicopters, all of that, very good trade show as well. We attend every year. And then finally, ICT, we have the Web Summit, which used to be called Collision, but has changed names. That's in Vancouver next year. Very large trade show, very good to meet with all the startup ecosystem, the AI people, the software people. You also have all the big IT companies, Microsoft, and so on. So quite an extensive show, but quite a good one as well. And then Americana in Montreal, focused on clean tech, very high quality, smaller side. Anything clean tech, green tech, renewable energy, technology, very good trade show that we recommend as well. Quite a more recent trade show, but getting better and better. And again, more and more countries are participating in those trade shows as well. So we see more and more foreign delegations on top of all the Canadian actors as well. So I want to finish with a few takeaways from all of this. This is a lot of information, but again, as Liz mentioned, this is going to be recorded and shared with you all, and I'm happy to have all the conversations that you want to have. But if I needed to give a few takeaways, it would be that Canada is very concentrated, but it's a very receptive market. So the market is mature, but Canadian buyers are very open to US products when there's a need or there's a specific niche to fill. The market is a bit harder to get into, but the risk is low. So it's much lower than in other countries. Regulation is clear, IP protection is good, and the cultural similarities are there for sure. we might speak French, but we live very similarly to the US. And not all of us speak French as well. Third one, which is an important one, the opportunities that I highlighted align with structural needs. So infrastructure, modernization of healthcare, automation, all of that is something that's a long-term need. It's not just a temporary spike. So all of these growth potentials are here to stay and are good opportunities for US companies in the long term, not only the short term. As I mentioned a few times, the partnerships that you create on the ground matter. So working with distributors, integrators, or local partners is often key to finding that one good contact or that one good contract. You might feel a bit lost when you're here because it feels small, but also everybody knows everybody, and you need to get into the networks, the trade shows, the industry associations, for example. It's going to help you a lot to navigate the market and understand where you want to focus your efforts. And then for all of that, preparation accelerates success, as you probably all know. Understanding the landscape, networking at trade shows, building trust overall is really key to getting into the market, understanding the market, understanding if the market is not for you, maybe, which is also a possibility. So all of that is key, as you probably all know. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. I hope this was informative. Happy to go to the Q&A, but I'll give it back to you, Alan, to go to the next section. So thank you very much.
Alan, you're on mute.
Yes, I was going to suggest, Lucien, that why don't you keep your last slide up there while we do the question and answer period.
Okay.
Katie, you want to take over?
Yeah, so it looks like we just have one question so far, and that is, are the metal extractions like aluminum processed into finished goods in Canada, or are they then exported for use elsewhere?
It's both. Obviously, I don't have the data on top of my head, but it's both for sure.
Okay.
Right now, Canada has lifted all of its tariffs on US products except metals. So I think that's also exacerbated the use of locally sourced metals, but it's both for local use and finish and also for raw export.
Great, thank you. So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to enter those into the chat. And just wanting to mention again that this presentation is being recorded, and we will have this up on our website, and we will also have the slide presentation available for you.
Yes, happy to share the slides with the team and to everyone here.
Thank you.
Also, if you'd like, you can just unmute yourself if you have a question as well. Although we do have another one that just came in on the chat.
Oh, two more.
Two more.
Okay,
yes.
This one is, does the currency exchange rate affect many businesses or inventory decisions?
It does. There's no way around it. The Canadian dollar is quite weak compared to the US dollar, or always has been. We jokingly call it the Canadian peso, only jokingly, obviously. So it does. Obviously, it gives you good purchasing power from the US to Canada, but then when you want to establish Canadian operations, you need to keep it in mind when you think about the exchange rate.
Okay, great. Okay, here is another one. Can you please share some insights about consumer beauty and cosmetics and how Canadian market is open for USA-based beauty small businesses?
So I don't have a lot of data up off top of my head, but we have worked with a lot of beauty companies based out of the US, both very small and on the medium side. And there's always been success in finding partners. I think what's key in the beauty sector in Canada is understanding the labeling and regulation requirements, which can be a bit different from the US. So making sure you're aware of the regulations for Health Canada, which is the agency here in Canada that takes care of this. So what counts as a medical product, a beauty product, something like that in terms of the labeling, and then also language. So French, English labeling, making sure you understand how that works. But in terms of demand, there is always demand. As I said, for the food sector, it's quite similar for the beauty sector. So a lot of demand for high quality, natural kind of niche products with a specific use. Also quite a big demand for international products, African, Asian, Middle Eastern, Latin American, things like that, because Canada is has quite a strong migration history. And you can see that in the city centers especially, and that also drives demand for different food and beauty products as well. So if you have any specific questions, happy to help you with that. But in general, just know there is demand. It's harder to access in terms of market, but when you're well prepared and when you have good information, there's demand for products.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do you have an insight into the interest/need for specialty consulting services related to environmental concerns associated with energy production?
I don't. I know the sector is growing very quickly, so there's always going to be needs for that. But then in terms of, are you going to be able to provide something that someone in Canada already is not providing? I'm not so sure. So you would have to dig deeper into that. But the sector in general is growing for sure. But then in terms of demand for that specific service, that would have to be verified.
Okay. We are a New Hampshire contract manufacturer who focuses on semiconductor and life science markets, but general industry as well. Any insights to contact possible companies interested in outsourcing manufacturing?
I mean, where to start? There's a lot of ways you could go about it. You can start with looking for industry associations in Canada, specifically for that sector, for the semiconductor sector. There's a semiconductor sector cluster, in Quebec. So clusters are always good to reach out to because they can tell you more about the ecosystem locally. They can maybe put you in front of their members as well. And if not, maybe direct you to some useful local contacts. But there's a lot of things going on in these two sectors right now in Canada. So if you understand the strategy you want to take to start looking at a specific maybe province first or city first or industry first, there's opportunity for sure. But many ways to go around it, so to speak.
Okay. This last one feels a little hard. Can you please estimate the percentage of aerospace that is commercial and that which is defense related?
I cannot. I would have to check that. But again, third aerospace hub in the world, so I would assume there's opportunity there.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, I feel like those were some good questions.
Yeah,
Alan, do you want to go on to your slides?
Okay. Yeah, if there are no more questions for Lucien, we will move over and I will share my screen and pull up. Okay, there we go. So just wanted to close out by talking a little bit more about opportunities for New Hampshire small businesses through the New Hampshire Export Accelerator and also through the STEP program. Like to start off by talking about our upcoming New Hampshire Export Accelerator Mastering Canada series. And this is intended primarily for new to exporting to Canada. And by new, we're really looking at either no exports at all or just a small number of exports within the last 18 months. If you've had a large number of exports in the last 18 months, you're probably still would be considered new to exports. So it's sort of a self judgment thing. But we are offering this series for a registration fee of $250 per business. And what is included in that is a training sessions, 3 that will be in person and 2 online in January and February of 2026. These are to help you to define your marketing objectives towards the Canadian market. And the registration for that is available on the New Hampshire SBDC website, a link which I think Katie, put up recently. What occurs in these training sessions and outside of them as well is individualized business advising from the SBDC and also export coaching from the Office of International Commerce, where I work, and also market research consulting from a CDEP, who Lucien works for. CDEP will be involved in the training programs as well, and also in terms of preparations for trade mission, New Hampshire trade mission to Canada in March of 2026. Completing the export series gets you an export ready business certification and an in-person graduation ceremony. Also, as part of this program, there'll be recommendations on the best sales channels, trade shows, matchmaking, etc. For the first 10 accepted applicants, we will be giving a free transportation and lodging to a New Hampshire trade mission to Canada. Food is not included in that. The estimated dollar value for this entire package, including the trade mission, is roughly $10,000 per company. So $250 for a $10,000 value is very good. You can register. We're looking for registration by Monday of December 1st. And as I said, the link for the SBDC website should be in the chat. So
I would just wanted to go back quickly to the Q&A. Sorry, Alan. I wasn't
Sure.
able to see the companies who asked the questions, but please feel free to reach out and also consider this Canadian trade mission. I think it's a very good resource from the New Hampshire team.
Now, also for companies that are maybe not so new to exporting, to where the New Hampshire Export Accelerator program might not be the best fit, we also have awards directly to small businesses from the New Hampshire STEP program, which is the program that I administer. It's a federal program administered by the Office of International Commerce in the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs. And the STEP program can provide 80% reimbursements up to $8,000 for export-related items, including transportation to trade shows in Canada or registration. Also, if you wanted to work directly with Lucien and CDEP, that expense would also be reimbursable under the STEP program. And some of the participants today I know are quite familiar with the program, have used it in the past. You can fill out an application at nhexportassistance.com, or you can email me directly at alan.j.dillingham@livefree.nh.gov. And does anyone have any questions about these opportunities or any further questions on Lucien's presentation? You can unmute yourself and ask questions if you like. The date set for the New Hampshire Trade Commission, we are looking at mid to late March. We will have those dates nailed down as soon as we can.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Lucien. With respect to the Canadian consumer, how important is it to them that the products they buy are quote unquote environmentally friendly, recyclable, or the company reputation around ESG?
It's quite important, more important than in the US for sure. And also depending on where you go in Canada, but if you go to Quebec, if you go to Ontario, if you go to British Columbia, it's quite a strong factor in purchasing. It depends on the product as well. I'm not sure what products you're referring to, but in general, Canadians take these things into consideration more than the US, for example, for sure.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, it looks like we might have had all the questions answered by now. If folks do have other questions, we will be sending this out via email, the presentation out via email, and you can always reach back out to Alan or to Katie or any one of us on this call, and then we can make sure that we make the connection to Lucien going forward. But thank you all so much for your time. Please do check out the links that Katie popped into the chat, whether it's the SBDC website, whether or not you're interested in signing up for business advising, checking out some of our other resources and e-courses online, or going straight to the Export Accelerator landing page. We would really love to see some of you join us for the Accelerator programming in January, and ideally for the Trade Mission in March. So please do reach out if you have any follow-up questions at all. We look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you again to everyone,
Thanks, everyone,
for being here, and thank you for the team to facilitating this.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
Wonderful presentation. We really appreciate your time and expertise.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, Ellen, we'll catch up
Yep.
soon. Okay, thanks.
Mhm.